Last video, I revisited 2004's The Grudge, so it's only fair to go back a couple years and talk about 2002's The Ring, an American remake of 1998's Ringu, released in Japan. Reading the comments, I see I wasn't the only one terrified by these two films as a child, as I see it was a terrifying memory unlocked for a lot of you. I used to be under the impression that this movie scared me more than The Grudge, but let's see if that still rings true. No pun intended. So sit back, grab some snacks. This is starting to sound like a spooky scary Sunday. Shout out Corey, maybe with a friend or a significant other, and let's revisit the 2002 horror classic, The Ring. Let's get into it. We start off with two girls in a room watching TV. This is Katie and Becca, and don't get too attached. This is the first 5 minutes of the movie. You know these two are making it past the first set of scenes. Becca is telling Katie about a tape that kills you when you watch it, and Katie starts to tense up. She tells Becca that she's already seen the tape by accident. Her and her friends were trying to record a football game. See kids, before streaming, you had to record the program yourself. If you didn't record it, well, you just had to wait for a rerun, or you probably will never see it again. You do realize you're in your 20s, right? And yet, I don't feel like it. Anyway, Katie starts to choke out of nowhere and falls into Becca's lap, but it's just her pulling a prank on her. They both laugh and hit each other with pillows, and then the phone rings and Katie's face expression completely changes. Oh, there really was a tape, and Katie's time is up. They both head downstairs and Becca answers the phone. She looks over to Katie and slowly hands the phone over to her. Katie says hello, and it's just her mom, and Becca was just being a butthead. She talks to her for a little bit and then hangs up, just when the TV in the other room turns on by itself. Nothing's playing, it's just static. Let me tell you, this movie made me actively afraid of static. Whenever I saw it on a TV or in a video, I would automatically think that Samara is going to come and get me. Katie turns the TV off and thinks it's Becca messing with her again, but then it turns back on. Katie goes to look at the screen and then plugs it out completely, and then we see some sort of transparent entity move behind her. She turns around and in the kitchen we see the refrigerator opening by itself. Oh my god. My food's gonna spoil! Katie slowly makes her way upstairs and you can see water leaking from under the bedroom door. She opens it and, well... oh, Katie dead. We cut to a child drawing, and this is Aiden, son of our other main character, Rachel, who in my opinion doesn't have a first good impression. She's cussing someone out and then gets into the room and the first thing she says is, "Shit." You know this is a school, right, Rachel? For children? Even Aiden looks irritated. He goes to wait in the car while his teacher talks to Rachel. She's concerned about his recent doodles. See, our friend Katie from earlier is Aiden's cousin, and they were very close. Rachel feels he's just expressing himself the only way he knows best. He's not a very talkative child, and he stays to himself a lot, while his teacher feels that something more may be going on. These drawings of Katie being dead are from a week ago. She died 3 nights ago. If you can gaze into the future? Anyway, Rachel writes it off like any good mother would. Look up the definition of sarcasm, please, and heads out. Later that night while tucking him in, side note, what is this green, eerie-ass filter they put on this entire movie? I mean, I don't mind it. It sure is better than Vaseline lens, that's for sure. Scream 4 has entered the room. Aiden claims they don't have enough time before they die, and Rachel says they have plenty of time. But according to Aiden, Katie told him she didn't have enough. She knew she was gonna die, and then turns around and says,
"Good night, Rachel."
I don't think you can just say some shit like that and then turn around like everything's normal. Also, we're on a first name basis here? You need to do better, Rachel. He at least could have said mother. He just straight up called you by your government. The next morning is the morning of the wake, and Rachel is scrambling around looking for a dress. She finds it laid out on the couch, and Aiden's already in the mirror tying his tie. Well, I see who's the adult between the two of you. They make it to the wake, and everyone is distraught. I mean, understandably so. A 16-year-old girl is dead. We hear 2 older women talking, and one of them is doubtful that Katie had a stroke, unless she was doing drugs. Yeah, that's a real respectful conversation to be having 5 feet away from the grieving mother. Even Rachel's offended. I would have said something. Rachel goes to hug Katie's mom, Ruth, and we get the weirdest scene so far.
You alright, Dave?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
What the f was that? What type of awkward ass interaction was that? You alright? No, we're at the wake of a dead teenager. And the response was even worse.
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, you know, I'm a little hungry, had a small breakfast. How the f do you think I am? Gotta love it. 15 minutes into the movie and my blood pressure is already high. Ruth is desperate. She can't find a logical explanation for her daughter's death, and she looks to Rachel for some help. See, Rachel here is an investigative journalist and news reporter, so surely she can find some answers. Rachel isn't too sure about this, but Ruth calls back in horror as she was the one who discovered her daughter and therefore saw her face. I mean, I made it the thumbnail for a reason. Question though, what happened to Becca? No mention of her. We didn't see her face after she went upstairs. I don't even see her at the wake. Did we just forget she existed? She's in a mental hospital. Wait, what? Oh shit, yeah, she's in a mental hospital. Damn, it was that bad? So we get a good look at Rachel's investigation skills. Within minutes of meeting these teenagers, she gets them to spill the beans about the tape and the fact that Katie's boyfriend Josh is also dead. And also the part about Becca being sent to a psychiatric hospital. Now the word around town is that Katie's boyfriend Josh killed himself, but we all know it was the tape. Actually, multiple people from that friend group watched the tape, so Katie won't be the only one receiving a visitor. Who's to say they're not all already dead? While up in Katie's room, Rachel is looking through one of her binders. It has various magazine cutouts of women with their faces drawn over, as if they have long, black, straight hair. Interesting. So after doing some digging, Rachel discovers that everyone in this photo with Katie died at the same exact time, 10 o'clock at night. Also, right before this, her boss tries to fire her and she's like, "Nah, dog, I still work here." How good of a reporter is she that she can just tell her boss she isn't fired? Must be a damn good one, because after telling her boss she's working on a really good story, he bites. But she doesn't even expand further and just shoos him off. Which one of you is the boss here? I mean, it's fair enough. enough, there's like 76 other people in this office. Go bother one of them. Rachel then heads out to the cabin that Katie and her friend stayed in. And the guy in charge there, while also trying to do terrible magic tricks, tells her that he recognizes Katie and her friends. Mainly because they didn't pay. Well, pal, they're all dead, so might as well let bygones be bygones. She then notices a tape off to the side with no label or pretty much anything on it. And she makes the safe assumption that it's probably the tape that's killing everyone. So she sneaks it into her bag and decides to stay in the same cabin that Katie and her friends stayed in. And watches the exact same tape they watched. Ah, yeah, that's perfectly normal. Hey, Rachel, hold this for a second. So she watches it, and it's pretty much the visual equivalent of gibberish. This is basically analog horror. Now, don't get me wrong, I love analog horror. But sometimes you get those videos where they're just shooting a whole bunch of stuff at you. You have no idea what's going on, and you're forced to look into the description for a well-thought-out script miraculously explaining the nonsense you just watched. And then the phone rings. And after 7 days, I don't know, you ever seen Scanners?
Okay, that was from Scanners. And basically that.
She runs out of the cabin and looks around like someone's watching her even though no one's around, and it cuts back to her apartment. And oh fun, we get a countdown. Don't know what's worse, Rachel's decision making or Aiden having to get himself ready for school, while she's in the bedroom having a midlife crisis. While Aiden is walking, we see a guy approach and they both look at each other and then walk away. What was that? Do you two know each other? Why did you two walk up to each other like you're both two protagonists in an anime opening? Turns out this guy does know him and Rachel. This is Noah, Rachel's ex-boyfriend and Aiden's father. What is this messed up family dynamic you guys got going on? Aiden calls his mom by her first name, basically takes care of himself. Aiden and his dad only share eye contact in the rain, and Rachel only shows her son the slightest amount of affection when a loved one is dead. In fact, the color grading might be appropriate because this entire situation is gloomy as fuck. To make matters worse, Rachel notices that after you watch the tape, any photo you take warps your entire face. It happened to Katie and her friends, and now it's happening to Rachel. Noah, of course, is not buying the whole killer tape thing, and Rachel gets the bright idea to have him watch it. Yeah, so if your niece is dead, and her boyfriend, and two of their friends, a week after watching the tape, and you just watched it, it only makes sense to have someone else die along with you. The phone also rings after he's done watching the video, naturally, but she doesn't answer. Sorry to break it to you, Rachel, but that stops nothing. He's still gonna die in 7 days. In her defense, she had changed her mind about him watching it because she didn't know if it was safe or not, but the fact that you had the idea of him watching it in the first place. Oh look, Samara left you a voicemail. How considerate of her. Oh, deleting it won't solve your problems, Rachel. Now we're on day 2 of our countdown to our impending doom. Rachel makes a copy of the tape to show Noah, and he has some questions. First of all, there's no possible way for an image to be showing right now. The numbers are all messed up on the tape, yet somehow we're still able to watch it, which according to Noah should be physically impossible. I mean, you can't even see a camera filming in the reflection of the mirror. The little watch session gets interrupted when Noah's new boo thing comes in the room, and Rachel decides to dip. And we can see why these two didn't work out.
Then I storm out, all pissed off, kicking myself for ever thinking that you could just grow up.
Immediately after this, she walks under a ladder. Yeah, I mean, you already watched the tape that kills you in a week. Might as well add misfortune and bad luck on top of that. We find ourselves on day 3, counting down to our inevitable folding. We finally see how Becca is doing, and I'm a little torn. While I can see how being in the house the night your best friend is murdered can be traumatizing, and it makes total sense to find yourself in a psychiatric hospital after such an event, but her randomly becoming this all-knowing,
I see you kneeling in dog shit.
What?
type beat is ridiculous. How does she know how many days Rachel has left? Just by feeling her hand? I call hacks. In an effort to track where the tape could have come from, Rachel heads to a place where you could do such a thing. She focuses in on a lighthouse which can serve as a clue, seeing as that she can maybe pinpoint a location, and then she pulls a fly out of the TV? I'm sorry, she does what now? Yeah, just straight up pulls this little guy out of the television. Are you magic, Rachel? Can you magically make yourself live longer? Anyway, after Rachel pulls an 11, we cut to day 4, and she's doing some research on what could lead us to our mysterious lighthouse. And bingo was his name-o. That shit never rhymed. We were gaslit our entire childhoods. She also finds the identity of the lady who appears on the tape, who is the only person in this photo wearing a dark black dress. I'd be surprised if you didn't notice her. Her name is Anna Morgan, a horse breeder who, after her horses began mysteriously falling ill, committed suicide by literally jumping off of a cliff. I say literally because I use that as an expression sometimes when I'm frustrated, but no, she actually jumps off a cliff as shown on the tape. Now we're on day 5, and I would say feeling alive, but that may be in poor taste. Also, who says this to someone?
You're gonna die.
Like, yeah, I know she means the cigarettes, but you don't know me, lady. I can quit whenever I want. Only after noticing his face is warping on the camera footage, Noah begins to question his ideals. Meanwhile, Rachel is in the kitchen coughing up electrodes. And no, I didn't know what these were off the top of my head. I had to Google it. Right after this, she heads into Aiden's room, but instead of fighting Aiden, she finds a little girl, sitting in a chair facing the opposite direction. A large puddle of water surrounding where she's sitting. Rachel walks up to her and she grabs her arm, and we get flash visions of the future, possibly? This was all a dream, by the way, and also Freddy Krueger rules. What happens in the dream happens in real life, because the arm she was grabbed by has a large bruise on it when she wakes up. Oh yeah, and Aiden is watching the tape. Aiden, what the hell? This motherfucker says,
I couldn't sleep.
okay, cool, so what made you watch this tape of all tapes? Couldn't find the orange ones with Timmy, Tommy, and Chucky? But on the flip side, if the tape was already in the VCR, then Rachel, this is entirely your fault. You should not be casually leaving a murder tape in the VCR or even laying it around the house where your child has easy access to it. Now Aiden's gonna die in a week if you don't figure out how to stop this curse. And what do you know? The phone rings afterwards and Rachel doesn't pick it up. It rings again, and this time Rachel snaps and picks it up yelling. But it's actually Noah calling her to tell her he believes her regarding the murder tape. We We also get a very dramatic pause when she tells Noah Aiden watch the tape.
Our son.
I'm sure this is meant to be a big reveal, so let me pretend to be surprised. What? Aiden is Rachel and Noah's son? Day 6, we're all out of tricks. I don't know why I'm rhyming all of a sudden like I tried to rhyme the last 5 days. Rachel heads into somewhere while Aiden and Noah stay in the car alone. Noah's reasoning for not being in Aiden's life is stupid as fuck. He thinks he wouldn't make a good dad. Boo fucking who, Noah? You have a literal son whose life you've been absent from. Noah says his dad wasn't around, but that doesn't mean copy his actions. You're supposed to be better than your shitty parents, not turn into your shitty parents. Even then, Rachel is no better. She gets so wrapped up in her job that Aiden is basically taking care of himself. So Rachel thinks whatever happened to Anna Morgan might relate to the horses suddenly falling ill. I mean, the lady was living a wonderful life with her husband breeding horses, then all of a sudden she winds up in a psychiatric hospital by herself. Something must have happened.
I think before you die, you see the ring.
Oh, she said the thing. Rachel is heading to Moesco Island herself while Noah is heading to the hospital Anna stayed in. To get there though, Rachel needs to take a ferry. And on that ferry, she encounters some horses. Although something is very wrong. When coming into contact with one of the horses, it starts to rile up to the point of escaping and running away. Going as far as completely jumping off the boat, killing itself in the propellers. Jesus. I would assume if Rachel hadn't watched the tape, this wouldn't have happened. But since she's cursed for death, the horse didn't want any of that smoke. Meanwhile, Noah is doing a terrible job at investigating. He just straight up asks these people for Anna's records like that's something they can give to non-family members. Although after pulling one over on them, he finds out the record room is downstairs. So he grabs a crowbar and breaks in. Now that's my type of investigating. Back with Rachel, she finds Anna's husband, therefore Samara's father, and starts to question him about the horses before changing the subject to his wife. Keep in mind, she's been seeing the real places that appear throughout the tape this entire time. Richard, that's the man's name, catches on and knows she's here for something else. When she pulls out the tape, his entire face changes and he knows exactly what it is. He also gets more tense when Rachel tells him she made a copy. Richard doesn't want anything to do with it. He tells her to leave, but not before she brings up his daughter, who he claims he doesn't have. Damn it, Samara, you can't kill all of humanity because you have daddy issues. After getting the door slammed in her face, she looks at the drawing that Aiden had drew for her earlier, and she realizes it's the exact same house she's standing outside of right now. If you could gaze into the future. Back with Noah, he's looking through the individual file cabinets, and he finally finds Anna's records, and we discover that she was trying for a baby, yet had several miscarriages. I wonder how Samara came to be then. Noah suffers from an 11 himself and also discovers Samara's files, as well as some strange images. We get pointed to another clue, a video recording of Samara. But no time for that, Aiden is drawing black holes, or the result of a Chidori versus a Rasengan. It's all about perspective. Turns out Samara is the one showing him these images. Yeah, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Hey kid, I know I'm gonna kill you in a week, but let me show you where I grew up. Rachel asks Aiden if she still lives on this land, but he says no. She lives in a dark place now, whatever that means. Rachel goes to visit the local doctor and lets her know about these things her and Aiden have been seeing. And she tells Rachel what we've already guessed. Anna and Richard tried many times, but she just wasn't able to bear a child. However, one winter they left and came back with Samara. They said it was from adoption, but they never said where she was adopted from. Just that her biological mother died from health complications. Everything seemed okay until Anna started coming to the doctor's office with the same claims. Vivid visions of very terrible things. Possibly what ended up driving her mad. Samara ended up getting transferred to the mainland to a psychiatric hospital, and that's the last time the doctor ever saw her. I mean, she's obviously dead, but what killed her? And why is she all of a sudden killing other people through a cursed tape? Questions and more questions, my friends. Back with Noah, he's once again being a terrible investigator. He's located where the tape is, and for some reason tells one of the workers he's Samara's father. 1978 is when this shit took place, and it's what, 2002? And you told this guy you were her father? You could have said uncle or cousin or something. You really think he's gonna buy that? Surprise, he doesn't. But he's still gonna let him watch the tape because of plot, I guess. Although when he opens the case, the tape is gone. The last person that watched it was Richard Morgan, the real Richard Morgan, which means Rachel is in trouble. But let's rewind a little bit. She heads back to the Morgan's house and knocks on the door to find it unlocked. Noah is trying to contact her, but she's not answering, and he just conveniently happens to be on a ferry to the island. How the hell did you get here so fast? Rachel lets herself in and finds some old files and electrodes, presumably from Samara. She also finds Samara's birth certificate and a centipede. I fucking hate centipedes, just as much as I hate spiders. She notices the tape in the VCR, and it's the same one that Noah was looking for, and I guess Richard got his hands on it and never took it back. We then see footage of Samara, and a live one, back when she was staying in the hospital. The person behind the camera is asking her questions like how she never speaks and how she made these pictures. Wait, she made those? However, according to her, she doesn't make them, she sees them. They appear in her head and they're just there. Of course, the person behind the camera thinks she's lying. She also requests to see her mommy, and we start to see a slightly compassionate side of Samara. Samara admits she does want to hurt people, but she's also apologetic of that fact. The feeling that she has inside to hurt people won't stop, even if she wishes otherwise. She also can tell that Richard had a disdain for her. He only cared about the horses and Anna, and Samara knows that. Samara says her daddy wants her to go away. I think I know what that means. She also says he doesn't know. Know what exactly? I'm not sure. And now that you have some context, we're back to where we were. Rachel gets up and turns around, and Richard mollywops her. They also sort of have a casual conversation after he just physically assaulted her. Like, yeah, let me try and reason with the man who just hit me over the head with a surge protector. Rachel theorizes he killed Samara, and he yells back at her saying how Anna wasn't supposed to have a child. It wasn't meant to be, as much as she wanted one. Also, you'll notice that during this entire scene, Richard is walking around with various cords around around his neck. And he took the TV from downstairs after going all a pimp named Slipback on Rachel. Water is overflowing out of the tub, and with all this electricity going through here, you could probably guess what our boy Richard is about to do. The crazy part is that he's still seeing the images Samara shows him. Not just the ones from the tape, but so much more dark, terrible things. I realize you can also see the love that Samara had for her mother. She shows her in a more pleasant manner compared to her father on the tape. Rachel just wants to know where she can find Samara so she can stop her, for Aiden's sake at least. But Richard gives her no answers, saying that he will die and Samara never sleeps, before flipping a switch and hitting the electric slide. Noah shows up, and you couldn't have come sooner, bud. Could have saved me a headache. Rachel then recites something Aiden said to her earlier on the phone. Samara says she didn't like the barn. The horses kept her up at night. That sick motherfucker Richard kept her in a barn. Like, an entire room is up here. His wife had gone mad, so he moved his daughter to the barn, which is probably why the horses began to get sick. Noah notices something behind the wallpaper on the wall. Rachel says something is burned into the wood, similar to the bruise on her arm from when Samara grabbed her. They tear it off to reveal a tree. Noah says it's from the tape, but Rachel says she's been there before. It's literally outside of Shelter Mountain Inn, the same inn Katie and her friend stayed in and watched the tape, and the same with Rachel. When they get there, however, they still have no answers. Why Samara let them here or anything. Rachel has given up. She tells Noah he'll have to figure something out to save Aiden, but Noah isn't going along with that. He says they'll figure this out together. In a fit of anger and frustration, Noah starts throwing stuff around when a jar of marble falls onto the ground. Then they magically gravitate towards the middle of the floor. They both look down and they lift the carpet up to reveal water damage on the floor, in the shape of, you guessed it, a ring. Noah grabs an axe from outside and begins hacking on the floor, and it reveals a well right under this floor. And I'm sorry, how is this just randomly here in this exact room? Like, how did Samara know Rachel would choose cabin 12 to stay in again? She stayed in this cabin the first time because that just happened to be where Katie and her friend stayed in. But you mean to tell me this well has been under here this entire time? No one has discovered this until now? And it's the same well that just happens to be extremely significant to the story. While they're both looking down here, the TV begins to show static. Water is leaking from under it, and nails from the floor are being lifted up by themselves. And then a bunch of flies come from nowhere out of the well, swarming Rachel and Noah. The nails from the floor that got lifted earlier cause the floor to have no support, and the TV slides down and knocks Rachel down the well. And down here is when we discover what really happened to Samara. Richard wasn't the one that killed her. Anna was. Anna? As in her mother, Anna? That's right, which makes it even sadder. Did Samara ever have any genuine love for her mother? Who's to say? But all Anna ever wanted was a child. She cries as she puts the plastic bag over her daughter's head and pushes her down the well. The only problem was, Samara was still alive. I mean, what can you do in a situation like this? The person you want to love the most is something you can't control, an evil that corrupts everything around them. Was this the only option? I don't know, but it definitely wasn't the solution we were hoping for. From that flashback, we see Samara's body appear from under the water. As Rachel holds her in her arms, she begins to change, as we simultaneously hear Noah's voice from up above. And then we see Rachel is holding nothing but a skeleton. The handprint on her arm has disappeared, and it's the next day, and she's still alive. They call authorities, and Noah tells Rachel that Samara will be buried next week. He also questions how long someone could have stayed alive in a dark place like that, and Rachel says 7 days. Hence why you only get 7 days to live after watching the tape. Ah, clever. Now I'm leaving a couple things out, but we'll circle back to that later. Everyone seems happy. They head home and pick up Aiden, and they both seem to have reconciled and are possibly getting back together, which makes Aiden happy. And the next morning, Aiden asks Rachel what happened to the little girl. Rachel says she helped her to be set free, and then we get this line.
You weren't supposed to help her.
What? What? Oh no. Oh no. See, earlier when they were sitting outside, Rachel theorized that Samara just wanted to be understood. A sheltered soul that just wanted to be heard. And while that's sweet and all, that's not the case. Samara is just evil. Evil, as Mermaid Man would call it. Helping her was never the goal. In fact, she tricked Rachel into doing so, helping her spread her curse even more. It's like giving a gun to a person when moments before they said they were going to shoot you. This only made things worse. And unfortunately for Noah, he's about to find it out the hard way. As he's chilling at his desk getting some work done, the TV in the background turns on. Nothing's playing, it's just static. He turns it off, but then it turns back on again and we see the well. The phone begins to ring, but it's actually just Rachel on the other side. Then we see the iconic scene of Samara rising from the well and making her way towards the TV screen. A scene that haunted my childhood and my dreams, or should I say nightmares. This is all happening while Rachel is rushing over to get to him. I will say though, Samara's entire sequence of coming through the TV is kind of badass. The fact that her entire body has this staticky black and white thing going on with a slight green colorway is awesome looking. She then teleports and is standing right in front of Noah. He falls backwards and lands onto one of the nearby racks. And as he crawls away, we get a really good shot of Samara's face, although it's more aged than malevolent. It zooms into her eyes, we see the same effect we saw when Katie was killed earlier. Rachel finally gets there, but it's too late. She screams in horror as she finds Noah's body and cries to herself. She heads back home and yells at Aiden to go to his room, and she grabs the tape and slams it on the ground over and over again. As it breaks into little pieces, she throws it into the fire. She then asks a really good question to herself. What did she do that Noah didn't do? Why is she still alive but he's dead? And then it clicks, and we get a replay of that interview with that person that was interviewing Samara. See, earlier in the film, I thought that Samara had felt empathetic for her dark thoughts, and wishes things could have been different. But the evil things she sees and does is something that won't stop, causing her to be a danger to her loved ones. But that's not it. The first time we see this interview, the way she phrases her words is perceived differently. The person behind the camera says,
"You don't want to hurt anyone."
And Samara replies with, "But I do, and I'm sorry, but it won't stop." Whereas when we see it a second time, it's a little more cynical.
"You don't want to hurt anyone."
"But I do, and I'm sorry, but it won't stop. The key difference between those line deliveries tells us that Samara never felt bad for the things she did. She wanted to hurt people. She wanted to kill. I mean, think about it, Rachel. She killed your niece, her boyfriend, and 2 of their friends. And you have the nerve to think that setting her free would erase those evil deeds she committed? Yeah, this serial killer was never hugged as a child, so I'm gonna give him a hug and maybe he'll stop killing. Yeah, see how stupid that sounds? The real reason why Rachel is still alive is because the moment she showed Noah the copy of this tape, she was already saved. It's sort of like passing down something, although instead of a beloved family heirloom, it's death. You have to show a person a copy of the tape in order to survive, and Noah didn't do that. Rachel does the same thing with Aiden saving his life, but now they're gonna have to show it to someone else. It never stops. She never sleeps. This will be going on forever. We get one last shot of the whale and the movie cuts to static. And that, my friends, is 2002's The Ring. I wonder though, would any of this happen if Rachel just left it alone? Everybody who initially watched the tape is dead, therefore the curse wouldn't keep killing. Katie's mom begging Rachel to find out what happened to her led her down this path of watching the tape, and Noah watching the tape, therefore Aiden watching the tape. And now you have to find someone else to watch the tape. I mean, you have to tell them, hey, this tape kills you if you watch it, but it's not like they're gonna believe you and then they die. But isn't that it? Or does it boomerang back to Rachel and Aiden? I don't know, maybe I'm just being slow, but it kind of sounds like an easy fix. Y'all just gonna have to sacrifice a stranger. And what was with Samara's connection to Aiden? He was experiencing stuff way before he watched the tape, yet they don't explain any of that. Why was she communicating with him so much and no one else? Like, yeah, Samara also showed Rachel some stuff, but it just seemed like she was talking to Aiden on a more regular basis. And what about that stuff with Becca? If Rachel showed Noah the copy and she was good, then why did Becca tell her she'll find out in 4 days? I know that wasn't Noah's time because he didn't watch the tape until like a day after or something. Or maybe she was saying she'll find out the truth in 4 days? And Samara's dad, he knew about the tape yet he hadn't watched it before? How the hell did he know what was on it? I feel like he knew way more than he was leading on, but we never get a chance to figure out what because he turns into an electric eel. And where did they even get Samara from? We never find out where they adopted her from. We just know they left one winter and came back with an evil child. Oh, my brain hurts. All in all, The Ring really surprised me. For a 2002 supernatural flick, it holds up pretty well. Dare I say it's iconic. I mean, if you weren't afraid of Kayako, you were definitely afraid of Samara. And The Grudge had only came out 2 years after this. And then we all made a terrifying realization. We're all afraid of dead women with long black hair covering their faces. Have you seen The Ring? And have you also seen the original as well? If so, let me know down in the comments below. If you somehow haven't, give it a watch. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's still got some solid scares. And even then, some really creepy imagery. And while a lot of things didn't make any sense, hey, it's an early 2000s horror movie. I'd be concerned if it didn't have any plot holes. Shout out to Stock Account 4057 and Night DK for being members of the channel. I appreciate you, for real. My name is Greaves, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace!